Hi there, Teach Yourself Websites members. Today we're going to go through how to install WordPress manually. Now this is something that's probably a little bit advanced in comparison to the previous lesson where we installed it via using simple scripts via our hosting backend. But it's still easy enough to follow along, so if you ever get stuck in this video, just hit pause and you can go back and review any steps that you need to. So what I'm going to do, this is a site that I own, which is myname.com, joshcolback.com. It's starting to look a little bit tired, and I'm thinking that I'm going to use this as a bit of a demo site for members and to show you how to do various things in WordPress. So what I'm going to do, I've moved this site away and I'm going to install a fresh copy of WordPress. Now to do that we need a few things. First of all is a copy of WordPress. You can download WordPress by going to wordpress.org, and if you just click on this big blue button here, you can download the latest version. At the time of recording this, that's 3.4.2. So the other piece of software that you'll need today is an FTP client. Now if you've got your own FTP client already, then just ignore this advice, but I suggest using something called FileZilla. Now FileZilla works on WordPress and it also works on Mac. So it's a bit of an all-rounder. What this does is it lets you connect to your web host and transfer files basically onto their server, and that's how you get all the WordPress files onto the internet. So if you don't have a copy of this, pick yourself up a copy. You can just go to FileZilla, that's FileZilla, and then a dash or hyphen project.org, and you'll be able to download a copy of this. It's free open source software. Now the last thing you will need is a hosting account, and I recommend that you use Bluehost. Bluehost is the host of choice that we recommend in Teach Yourself Websites. And you can access Bluehost by going to teachyourselfwebsites.com into the recommends section and then follow the links, and that will let you get an account with Bluehost, and you can sign up for an account, or if you've already got an account, that's great. You just need access to the control panel. So I'm going to start now by going and downloading WordPress. So just wordpress.org, and then click on that download link, and then click on here to download the latest version. And while that's happening, I'm going to log into my Bluehost control panel. So WordPress comes packaged up in a .zip package, and what you have to do before we put all of those files onto our web server, we need to extract it from the zip. To do this in Mac, it's really easy. You just double click on your zip archive and you'll get it to extract. On Windows, I think there's an inbuilt zip unarchiver. If you right click on the file and then click on unzip, otherwise you can use something like WinZip or WinRAR, and they will do the same thing. Now what we need to do is get these files up to our web server, and to do this I'm going to use FileZilla. So now that we have FileZilla open and we're pointed at our directory that we unzipped WordPress in, you'll see the zip file here, and here's our directory containing WordPress. What we need to do is connect to our web host, and to do that you can just come up here and type in your main domain name. So for me, it's just joshcolback.com. Bluehost will also give you your own username and password. And once you put those in, you can just hit Quick Connect. Now what this does is it goes off and basically lets you have a visual look at what is stored on your web server. So to look at the actual files, what we need to do is go to the public_HTML directory. So double click on that. So this layout here is on the right hand side, this is our server, on the left this is our local machine. Now I've got a few different files here already, but what we need to do is to just upload all of the contents of that unarchived zip package. So I don't want to actually just upload the WordPress directory itself. I want to grab the contents of what's inside here. So to do this, you can just with your mouse left click on the first item and then scroll down and hold Shift on your keyboard. Click on the last item, which will select everything, and then right click and press upload. And you'll see this is starting the upload process down the bottom here. So this is going to take a little while, so I'll just pause the video here for a moment and come back once it's finished. So while we're waiting for our files to upload to the server, what we can do is actually set up the database. And this is going to be a manual process, unlike when we install it with simple scripts. So to create a new database on your hosting account, log into Bluehost and then scroll down until you find this databases section. Then we need to click on MySQL databases, which will give us a listing of all the databases on the account. Now what we need to do is create a new database, and the first prompt here is how we do that. So what this is a unique name for the database that's going to sit behind our site and help WordPress run the site. And this is where all the little bits of information are stored. So when you write a post on your site, or if you put up a page, this is where it gets stored in your database. So just give it a unique name. I'm just going to call mine Josh, and then click on Create Database. So now it's telling me that it's added the database Josh, and it prefixes this with your username just for uniqueness. If you click on Go Back, now in our list we've got Josh, and we need to do one further step, and that's to create a user to interact with that database. So we need to create a user to interact with the database, and this allows WordPress to log into the database and save things to it. And now this is a unique user to your account again, and it's going to be a unique user to that particular database that we just created as well. So I'm going to call my user Josh also. And then you can also you can specify your own password for the user, but I find it's actually a little more secure to use the password generator. And if you click on this generate button, it comes up with all sorts of crazy combinations. And just pick one that you like. Right click and press copy, and then say that you've copied this password into a safe place. Now, I'd probably actually recommend writing that down and destroying it later. So now that we've got our password in there, it's giving us a strength rating, 100 out of 100. So we always want that to be as strong as possible. We just click on Create User. So now it's telling me that it's created the user Josh with password, this one that we've written down. So if I click on Go Back, the final step, if we scroll down under the Add New User box, is to add that user Josh to the database Josh. Now click on Add, and it will ask you what kind of privileges you want to give that user. So for WordPress we need to give it all privileges, and that will give it the ability to create tables and put entries into the database and all that kind of stuff. Click click on Make Changes, and that's our database set up. Okay, so it looks like everything has finished transferring. Everything on the left here has now been transferred over to the right, to the server, and there was no failed transfers. If there was any failed transfers, just try and upload those files again. So now what we need to do is tell WordPress all about the database by following its quick installation. What we need to do is go to the website, and the first time you visit it you'll get an error, and it'll look something like this. It'll say there's no wp-config.php file, and we need this before we can get started. So what we need to do is click on this create a configuration file, and this will start the installation process. And what that's doing now is just creating that file on your server. After you've created the config file, you'll be presented with this installation screen. Now, what we'll need is that the name of the database that we created, the name of the database username that we created before, and also that crazy looking password that we had that we copied down in a safe place. And that's pretty much it. So if we click on Let's Go, we've got 5 fields here. So the first one is asking for the database name. Now we know that was my username plus _ Josh on the end of it. And I had exactly the same for my username to avoid any confusion. So the password itself, I'll just go ahead and paste that in now. And the database host and table prefix, you can leave both of those the same. Once that's all done, click on Submit, and you've partially completed, and to finalize we just click on Run the install. Great, so now we need to fill in some more information, and this will look similar to the info that we filled in during our Simple Scripts installation. So what we need to do is put in a site title. I'm just going to call my site Josh's blog, and I'm going to leave my username as admin. You can change that to whatever you like though, and I'm going to put in a password. Okay, now we need to enter an email address. Just going to put in my email there. And the privacy setting down the bottom here lets WordPress know whether to allow search engines like Google to index the site and put that into their search engine results. So I'm going to leave that as yes. Once we're complete, click on Install WordPress, and that's it. So to log in, just click on Login. This will take you to the login panel. So just click on username, put in the username and password you did before. And click on Login. And there we go. That's how we install WordPress.